What is going on with FWOG on Solana? Nobody is talking about it, and out of nowhere the price is shooting up. Let's try to figure out who's actually buying and selling here, how much more upside potential there is, and how solid, how sustainable this rally is. Now, FWOG is the 7th largest trending token on Solana. It's got a liquidity pool size of 5.8 million. And the very first video on FWOG on this channel was published 222 days ago. The video performed pretty much average, and that was at a time when the price was still at 12 cents. We then saw this massive rally to 72 cents. And as the name already suggests, Pump.fun, right? We first pump and then we've got our fun. Now there's one guy that found the FWOG token earlier. It was not at 12 cents, it was way before that, and that's Kyle Chessy. We are tracking his wallets and he got into the token when it was still at 1.5 cents. So subsequently it went up by almost 5,000%. Many Pump.fun ecosystem tokens are up recently, but let's try to figure out what happened with FWOG specifically. Let's have a look at the holders on chain. So we've got 81,344 holders with a tendency of this going up. And especially yesterday, we saw quite a lot of new first-time traders trading the token. There are still more recurring traders than first-time traders, and the number of trades is fluctuating. It's coming in waves. And while the trading volume on the Solana chain used to be much larger, it now starts to come back. But over time, small retail tends to make up more and more of the trading volume. Now, small retail wallets are all wallets that have less than $1,000 worth of the token. So it seems like the larger wallets tend to trade the token less and less on the Solana chain. Yet the price is going up. What's going on? Check this out. This is the number of retail investors, medium-sized investors, and whale investors. So to be counted as a wallet on the left chart, that wallet has to hold at least 13,500 tokens. So at the current price, that's roughly $1,000 worth of the token. To be counted in the chart in the middle, it's a 10x in minimum holding. So it's $10,000 worth of the token. On the right, another 10x, so $100,000 worth of the token. We can clearly see how the whales tend to dump on retail. And we can also see how the whales tend to hold more supply than retail, because again, the wallets that are here on the right have on average 100 times what the wallets on the left hold. So those 92 wallets are worth 9,200 retail wallets, and there are not so many retail wallets. So the whales really own most, and there's all of that selling pressure. And that then explains why FWOG dumped that much. But it doesn't really explain why it's recently going up. The whales are still not buying, and it seems like the buying pressure by retail isn't large enough to justify such a rally. It seems like there is a common trend among Pump.fun ecosystem tokens right now, and that is leverage. There are perpetual futures where we can bet on prices with leverage, and it seems like there's now a strong correlation between the spot price and the perpetual futures leverage, or otherwise called open interest. How many bets are there currently on the price? And when this is going up, spot tends to follow. It seems like the people that are responsible for this rally know how to play the game, because there are not a lot of shorts that are now betting on this. It still has a positive funding rate to get into FWOG with the perpetual futures. So this rally is definitely not a short squeeze. It's unlikely that the price will deflate very soon. If we see strong negative funding rates, then there is a higher likelihood that the price goes back down. This is not what we currently see. We also don't see a lot of liquidations. So right now there is still a market equilibrium despite this rally. This is simply just a propped up price on the perpetual futures without too much of an imbalance between longs and shorts. Just have a look at where the price discovery really happens. In the last 24 hours, we saw 15 million worth of trading volume on the decentralized exchanges. So that's on Radium, that's directly on the Solana chain. But then we've got almost double that in the perpetual futures market on Bybit. So that's 24 million. Now this is not yet extremely inflated. Those kind of numbers can go way higher. They can go in the hundreds of millions, even billions of dollars. At those kinds of turnovers on the perps, together with negative funding rates, it makes sense to be cautious. But again, this is not what we are seeing right now. We see that the buying pressure comes from the perps. It does not necessarily come from the spot market, but we also don't see how anything is distorted in this asset. In other assets in Pump.fun it's different, but FWOG seems to be relatively solid in this rally. Also within the ecosystem, the market cap of FWOG is still small. It's 72 million. And so this gives a quite attractive upside. We can easily double and triple. A 10x is somewhat far-fetched because then the token would become the second largest token, but a doubling or tripling is definitely possible. Now finally we enter a market again where everything is going up, and I think it's important to seize the opportunity, not just randomly buy things, but buy the things that tend to go up more than others. Now that's easier said than done, but let's have a look at Virtual, for example. How can we find something like Virtual's protocol not just a week ago, but how can we pick it up early, as in when it just was a few cents? I don't think that we have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to be the best traders on the planet to figure this out. We can just have a look at the people that tend to move markets, that tend to make good trades. For example, here's somebody that did not necessarily always do the best trades. So here are signals by Ben Armstrong. He got some virtual tokens very early on allocated for a promotion. He sold this for very low prices, 1.4, 1.3 cents. So yeah, following people like Ben Armstrong or BitBoy Crypto is probably not the best idea. But there are some people that do make regularly very nice trades. For example, this guy over here, Brian Young. He's got more than 2 million subscribers and he mainly talks about crypto. He was one of the very first influencers that we track that bought virtual token for very low prices. 15K over here for 7 cents. The community talked about this quite a bit, 61 comments. That was more than 1 year ago on the 21st of March 2024. And so the rest is history. The price went up by more than 6,000%, even after a subsequent crash and then the current recovery. The price is still up by almost 2,000%. Crypto is not necessarily a game where the people with the best fundamental analysis win. I think it's much more of a player versus player game. It's much more of a game of insiders versus the not so well informed retail investor. Even though YouTubers like Brian Young do very good crypto content and they also trade well, it's very hard to figure out where do they actually put their money and how much do they invest. Even when I search here for the Virtuals token, I can't even find a dedicated video on Virtual on his channel. The token might be hidden somewhere in those list videos, but that's about it. Now the first dedicated video on Virtual's protocol was published half a year ago over here. That video outperformed the average video. The average video is here in gray and the performance of that video is in blue. At the time, the price was at 41 cents. And even from that point onwards, we went up by more than 1,000%. So I publish videos on various altcoins regularly on this channel. I try to find the ones that still have a lot of upside potential. So feel free to subscribe over here. Now, if it's that easy to make money just by looking at what other people are doing, how do we actually know that early what, say, BitBoy Crypto or what Brian Young is doing? The answer is wallet tracking. With some on-chain analytics, we found out what kind of wallet is owned by what influencer. For example, over here, we found 5 wallets of Brian Young. In total, we track almost 600 wallets. So that's of various influencers. And the way we find those wallets is by looking at what kind of NFTs are they holding, what kind of tokens are they holding. Let's say they share in a video that they have $150,000 worth of a very small token. There aren't too many wallets that might own that amount. We're looking at related wallets, deposit addresses on centralized exchanges. We're doing all kinds of small tips and tricks, and those are all explained here in this little tutorial course on wallet discovery. So that can be found below at thebitcoinstrader.com. And so the premium community of this channel is focusing on that. We try to find new wallets, we share those wallets with others, and then we track the wallets. And then sometimes we find out that some influencers aren't always ethical. For example, here's a video by one influencer that talked about the Champ token just after we got the buying alert. So that's then the way it works, right? The influencer buys a small cap cryptocurrency and then afterwards promotes it on the social media following, and then the social media following is buying into the token, pushing up the price even further. So a classical pump and dump, and the winners are always the people that buy in early, before all of that social media publishing has been done. That's what the wallet tracking is so useful for. And so clearly it's time to make money again. Since October of 2023, more and more money is flowing into the market. The stablecoin market market cap is going up. So as per tendency, cryptocurrencies should go up in price. Now the problem is that returns are very concentrated in just a few winners, right? It's a winner takes most game. It's player versus player, and the vast majority of people still lose even in market conditions like this. But yeah, we are tracking those almost 600 wallets. We've got our dedicated influencer trade channel, and when we see insiders like the Memecoin or Based AI team accumulating a very small market cap token, for example over here, KEK, that's a signal of today, then it's likely that the price rises, right? There are all these accumulation buys, and as long as insiders buy more and more of a very small token, things tend to go up. So this is now an appreciation of almost 200% over the span of a week. And so yeah, there are two ways to make money. We can simply just take random tokens, and they are likely going to appreciate to a degree. But if you want to take full opportunity of this market, it's better to follow the smart money, right? It's better to buy the virtual protocols of this world when it's just a few cents worth of a token and then moves to several dollars. I'm of course sharing my own trades in premium as well. That goes without saying. And so feel free to check it out. It's currently $125 per month. There should be a link somewhere here on the screen, probably at the bottom right, that leads you directly to that page. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish this regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube, or see you in premium. Cheers.